In CIST 1602, Chapter 3, we're going to look at compliance laws and information security policy requirements. So, this lesson, we're going to discuss the importance of understanding laws and regulations, with our primary focus going to be on United States laws. However, it is crucial to note that certain non US laws and regulations are also relevant and significant to US businesses. These non US laws may have an impact on US businesses due to their reach, their content, or the applicability to specific operations. So, compliance laws play a critical role in ensuring that the organizations adhere to specific standards and regulations to protect various aspects of society. In the United States, several compliance laws have been enacted to address different areas of concern and establish guidelines for businesses and institutions. So, today we're going to look at an overview of the purpose of compliance laws and explore some important U.S. compliance laws. Looking at the U.S. compliance laws, the government drivers for regulations are indeed linked to consumer protection, maintaining a stable economy, and ensuring reliable tax revenue. So, we're going to look at these drivers in more detail. We'll start with consumer protection. The government regulations are often put in place to protect consumers from unfair practices, fraudulent activities, and harm. Now, by implementing regulations, governments aim to ensure that businesses operate ethically and provide safe products and services to customers. Regulations may cover areas such as product safety standards, fair advertising practices, consumer rights, and data protection. Through these regulations, governments strive to build trust between businesses and consumers, promoting a healthy marketplace and safeguarding consumer interest. Now, when we look at a stable economy, the regulations play a critical role in maintaining a stable and thriving economy. They establish a framework that fosters fair competition, prevents monopolistic practices, and promotes economic growth. Regulations may include measures to prevent market manipulation, insider trading, and anti competitive behavior. By enforcing these regulations, governments aim to create a level playing field for businesses. They also encourage innovation and investment and ensure the overall stability and health of the economy. Now, government regulations are also closely tied to tax revenue collections. So, regulations help ensure that businesses fulfill their tax obligations, prevent tax evasion, and maintain a fair and efficient tax system. So, by implementing the regulations related to tax compliance, governments can ensure a consistent and reliable stream of tax revenue. And that is going to be vital for funding public services, infrastructure developments, and various other government initiatives. So, overall, government regulations are driven by consumer protection, maintaining a stable economy, and ensuring a reliable tax revenue. This allows them to create a balanced and thriving business environment. And it is used by the government. The government's aim in here is to protect consumers, foster economic growth, and sustain the financial resources for the public welfare. So, U.S. compliance laws addressing information security policies, they encompass several key concepts that focus on protecting individuals' privacy, ensuring transparency, and serving the public interest. So, we'll look at these that are on your screen. Full disclosure refers to the requirement of providing comprehensive and transparent information about the collection, use, and the sharing of personal data. So, compliance laws emphasize the importance of organizations about being open and honest with individuals regarding the types of data they collect, how it will be used, and any third parties it may be shared with. This concept aims to empower individuals to make informed decisions about sharing their personal information. U.S. compliance laws often impose restrictions on the use of personal data by organizations. These laws advocate for the principle of using personal data only for legitimate and specific purposes. Organizations are required to collect and process personal data only to the extent necessary for fulfilling the intended purposes, and they must not engage in unauthorized or excessive data use. The opt in, opt out mechanisms relate to an individual's consent and control over the use of their personal data. Opt in means the individual must actively give their consent before the data can be used for specific purposes, while opt out allows the individual to decline the use of their data unless they explicitly give consent. Compliance laws may require organizations to obtain opt in consent for sensitive data or for certain types of marketing communications. And it gives the individuals a choice to participate or withdraw from the data processing activities. Now, data privacy is a fundamental aspect of compliance laws. It emphasizes that the protection of the individual's personal information and their right to control how their data is collected, stored, and shared. Compliance laws often establish guidelines for implementing appropriate security measures, data protection protocols, and data breach notification requirements to safeguard the individual's privacy rights. Informed consent entails individuals providing their explicit and informed agreement before their personal data is collected, and processed. Compliance laws stress the importance of organizations obtaining valid and meaningful consent from individuals, ensuring that individuals understand the nature and implications of data processing activities before giving their consent. Compliance laws also often incorporate the concept of public interest, and then emphasizes that organizations have an obligation to protect not only individual privacy, but also broader social interests. This may include preventing fraud, ensuring public safety, promoting fair competition, and maintaining the integrity of critical infrastructure. Now, these compliance laws aim to balance individual rights with welfare and establish the framework that benefits the public at large. So, what are U.S. compliance laws? There are laws that are designed to set standards and requirements that organizations must follow to achieve specific objectives. These laws aim to protect individuals, maintain the integrity of certain industries, safeguard sensitive information, and ensure ethical practices. So, by establishing clear guidelines and regulations, compliance laws promote transparency, accountability, responsible behavior within the organization. Now, we're going to look at a few of these compliance laws and explore some of the key aspects. First up is the Federal Information Security Management Act. This was enacted to improve the security of federal information systems and the protection of sensitive data. It establishes requirements for federal agencies to develop and implement robust information security programs, conduct regular risk assessments, and report on their security postures. Next is the Health Information Portability and Accountability Act, or the HIPAA law. HIPAA sets standards for the protection of individuals' medical records and other personal health information. It mandates that the security and privacy of health data, ensures the portability of health insurance coverage, and establishes guidelines for healthcare providers, insurers, and other entities handling and protected health information. Now, when it comes to HIPAA compliance, security policies must encompass several key components. These components include administrative safeguards. So, HIPAA requires the implementation of administrative safeguards to manage the selection, development, implementation, and maintenance of security policies and procedures. This involves designating a security officer, conducting employee training, and implementing security incidents procedures. HIPAA also mandates the development and implementation of comprehensive security policies and procedures that align with the specific requirements outlined in the HIPAA security rule. These policies and procedures should address areas such as access control, workforce security, incident response, and risk management. HIPAA also requires the establishment of physical safeguards to protect the physical security of computer systems and physical health records themselves. They may involve implementing access controls, monitoring and controlling physical access to data storage areas, safeguarding against unauthorized access and damage to the physical infrastructure. HIPAA also places emphasis on implementing technical safeguards to protect electronic protected health information. This, once again, can include the use of access controls, encryptions, audit logs, and other security measures that ensures the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of the electronic protected health information. The last thing here is the risk assessment that HIPAA necessitates conducting regular risk assessments to identify vulnerabilities and assess potential risks to confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the EPHI, the Electronic Protected Health Information. Organizations must use risk-based management approach to information security. That involves identifying and addressing potential threats and implementing appropriate safeguards to mitigate those risks. The HITECH Act, the Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health Act. This expands on HIPAA by addressing the privacy and security aspects of electronic health records, promotes the adoption and meaningful use of electronic health records while enhancing the protection of electronic health information. The Graham-Leach-Billy Act, this focuses on the financial industry and requires financial institutions to safeguard the privacy and security of customers' non-public personal information. It mandates the development and implementation of information security programs and provides guidelines for sharing customers' financial information with third parties. Now, for security policies to be GLBA compliant, they should encompass various important components. These components include the governments. So the GBLA requires organizations to designate an individual or role within an organization that is accountable for information security. This could be a chief information security officer, a chief information officer, someone who's going to take responsibility for overseeing and managing information security efforts. The GLBA also mandates conducting regular information security assessments to identify potential vulnerabilities and risks to the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of customer information. These assessments help organizations understand their security posture and implement appropriate safeguards. GLBA compliance also involves developing and implementing an information security strategy that aligns with the organization's goals and objectives. This strategy outlines the approach and measures taken to protect the customer information from unauthorized access, use, or disclosure. GBL also requires organizations to establish and implement security controls to safeguard customer information. This includes measures such as access controls, encryptions, network security, and employee training to ensure the confidentiality and integrity of sensitive data. Another requirement involves continuous security monitoring to be compliant with GLBA. This allows you to detect and respond to any unauthorized access or security incidents promptly. Also, organizations should regularly update their security measures and technologies to address any emerging threats and vulnerabilities. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act, the SOX Act, It was enacted in response to major corporate accounting scandals. It established regulations and requirements for public companies, and these included financial reporting and disclosure obligations, internal controls, and corporate governance practices. And this is to ensure the accuracy and transparency in financial statements. The Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, the FERPA Act. FERPA protects the privacy of students' education records. It grants certain rights to parents and eligible students, controls the disclosure of student information, and sets guidelines for educational institutions to receive federal funding. Now, when it comes to FERPA compliance, security policies should incorporate several essential elements. These include an awareness, so schools must establish a FERPA security policies and procedures that make them publicly available. Additionally, they should provide awareness and education to students, parents, and staff members about the rights and the school's obligation regarding the privacy of education records. Schools must obtain written consent from eligible students or their parents and guardians for disclosing personally identifiable information from education records. The consent requirement ensures that sensitive student information is not shared without proper authorization. Now, FERPA does allow schools to disclose certain directory information, such as a student's name, address, telephone number, date of birth, without the consent. However, schools must provide students with the opportunity to opt out of such public disclosure if they wish to maintain the privacy of their directory information. Now, FERPA also permits the disclosure of education records without consent for specific reasons. These reasons include legitimate educational evaluation purposes and situations related to health and safety concerns. However, schools still must exercise caution and ensure that any disclosure made without consent comply with allowable exceptions under FERPA. The Children's Internet Protection Act. This focuses on protecting minors from accessing harmful and inappropriate content on the internet. It requires schools and libraries that receive federal funding to implement internet safety policies. These include filtering and monitoring mechanisms. Along with some other policies that must be included. The policies, the CHIPA policies, they must be provided. Like I said, they have internet filters. There must be a process to allow the filter to be unblocked or disabled for adults. And children need to be educated on internet safety and cyberbullying and how to respond to be compliant with CHIPA. Now, compliance laws serve various purposes and protect different stakeholders. So, we're going to look at some of the different groups that the laws aim to protect. So, with individuals, many laws focus on protecting the individual's private information, such as their personal and health data. And so, laws like the HIPAA, the HITECH, and the FERPA are designed to safeguard individuals' privacy rights and ensure the security and confidentiality of their sensitive information. These laws provide individuals with control over their data and establish guidelines for its proper handling by organizations. Compliance laws play a vital role in promoting transparency and accountability within organizations, particularly within the financial sector. So laws like the SOX Act, the Sarbanes-Oxley, it requires companies to establish robust financial reporting practices, have internal controls, and corporate governance measures. So, by adhering to these laws, organizations can provide stakeholders with confidence that their investments are based on accurate financial information and managed risk. Now, compliance laws also serve the broader public interest by promoting ethical practices, consumer protection, and a healthy economy. So, laws like the Graham-Leach-Bailey Act focus on safeguarding consumers' financial information and ensuring the responsible data sharing practices by financial institutions. By protecting individuals' interests and maintaining public trust, these laws contribute to a stable and secure economic environment. We also have to consider that in today's digital age, cybersecurity and national security are closely intertwined. So, compliance laws related to information security, such as the Federal Information Security Management Act, these address the protection of critical infrastructure and government systems. Cyber terrorism and cyber attacks pose significant risk not only to the targeted organizations, but also to national security. So, by implementing a robust security measures and complying with the relevant laws, organizations contribute to the overall protection of the country's critical assets and infrastructure. Now, when it comes to aligning security policies and controls with regulations, there are several important steps that need to be taken. So, we'll go through these steps. The first step is to understand specific business requirements and objectives of the organization. This involves identifying the industry, the type of data being handled, any specific compliance regulations that apply to that business. Those requirements, these requirements serve as the foundations for developing security policies and controls. Now, based off those business requirements and any applicable regulations, security policies do need to be developed. These policies outline the organization's approach to information security, including the protection of sensitive data, access controls, and incident response procedures, and more. Security policies serve as a set of guidelines and rules that govern the organization's security policies. Implementing a security framework that helps organizations to and structure that helps them to organize and structure the security controls within the organization. Now, commonly used frameworks include ISO 27001, maybe NIST, Cybersecurity Framework, and CIST controls. And what these frameworks do, they provide a structured approach to establishing security controls and help organizations comply with various regulations and provide a baseline of security practices. So the next step is to map the security controls defined in the security framework to a specific regulations or specific requirements of the applicable regulations. So this involves identifying the controls required by the regulators and mapping them to controls already implemented within the organization. This mapping ensures that the organization's security controls adequately address compliance regulations and requirements. So once the security controls are in place, regular monitoring and testing are essential to ensure the effectiveness and compliance with regulations. This includes conducting periodic risk assessments, vulnerability scans, penetration testing, security audits, and then, the monitoring and testing help identify any weaknesses or gaps in the security controls, and it allows you for a timely fix on those. Finally, the evidence is to demonstrate compliance regulations. It's important to maintain evidence of the implementation and effectiveness of the security policies and controls. This includes your documentation, such as your policies, procedures, risk assessments, audit reports, and any security incident reports, response records. You want to make sure you have proper documentation, and the evidence is crucial during regulatory audits or in case in the event of an incident. Now, when it comes to industry standards, there are several different ones that organizations should be aware of and consider implementing. So we're going to take a look at three significant industry standards. The first one is the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, the PCI DSS. What this is a set of security standards designed to protect payment card data. This applies to any organization that processes, stores, or transmits cardholder data. Compliance with the PCI DSS is crucial for businesses that handle credit card transaction because it allows them to ensure the security of the customer's payment information. Now, the standards include requirements such as maintaining a secure network, implementing strong access controls, regularly monitoring and testing systems, and maintaining an information security policy. The next one is a clarified statement of standards for attestation engagements number 18. This is an auditing standards developed by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. It replaces the previous standards and provides guidelines for auditors to assess and report on internal controls of service organizations. Organizations that provide services to other businesses, such as data centers or cloud service providers, they often undergo a SSA 18 audits and allows them to demonstrate the effectiveness of their control environment and assure clients of the security and reliability of their services. The last one is the Information Technology Infrastructure Library ITIL. It's a widely adopted framework for IT service management. It provides best practices for managing IT services and aligning them with the needs of the business. Now, while ITIL does not focus specifically on security, it offers guidance on processes, procedures, and controls related to the management of IT services, which indirectly supports the implementation of effective security measures. ITIL encompasses various stages of the service lifecycle, including the service strategy, design, transition, operation, and continual service improvement. Now, when it comes to international compliance laws, there are several important regulations that organizations need to be aware of, especially if they operate on a global scale. So we'll look at three of these. First is the General Data Protection Regulation. It's a comprehensive data protection regulation that applies to all European Union member states. It sets out strict requirements for the collection, processing, and storage of personal data of EU residents. Now, this regulation aims to protect the individual's privacy rights, and give them more control of their personal data. Organizations that process personal data of EU residents, regardless of where other location, must comply with this GDPR. This regulation also includes provisions for obtaining consent, implementing data protection measures, appointing data protection officers, conducting impact assessments, and also reporting data breaches. The ETSI, the European Telecommunications Standard Institute, is an independent nonprofit organization that develops globally applicable standards for information and communication technologies, including telecommunications. Okay, this standard covers a wide range of topics. This includes things such as network security, data protection, privacy, interoperability, compliance with the ETSI standards. This can help an organization ensure the security, reliability, and compatibility of their telecommunication systems and services, particularly dealing with the European market. The Asia Pacific Economic Framework, APEC, it's an intergovernmental forum that promotes economic cooperation among its members in the Asian Pacific region. APEC has developed a framework for privacy protection known as the APEC Privacy Framework. This framework provides guidelines and principles for organizations to enhance privacy protection while facilitating the flow of information across borders. It emphasizes the importance of transparency, accountability, and individual rights regarding the collection and use of their personal information. So all of these regulations aim to protect the individual's privacy rights, ensure the data security, and promote trust in digital transactions. By adhering to these international compliance laws, organizations can demonstrate their commitment to respecting privacy, gain the confidence of customers and partners, and also avoid any potential legal and reputational risk. So, in summary, we went through the U.S. compliance laws and how to align the security policies and controls with regulations and why that is important. We've also looked at industry self regulation through the leading practices, industry standards, and also have touched on international laws